The hot African air shimmered above the scorched earth. A pilot and veterinarian named Daniel was driving along the dry road in his old SUV, heading to the reserve to carry out routine vaccinations of the animals. But something disrupted his usual route. A sharp, drawn-out roar, filled with pain, came from the opposite side of the hill. It was not a normal animal cry. There was agony in it. Daniel stopped instantly, jumped out of the car, grabbed his first aid kit, and ran towards the sound. When he reached the acacia thicket, his heart sank. A young lion lay in the grass, its paw entangled in a steel trap. It was breathing heavily, looking around with frightened eyes and growling softly as the man approached. Its paw was bleeding, the metal dug deep into the flesh. Daniel knew that any sudden movement could cause the lion to attack out of fear and pain. But he also understood that if he left now, the animal would die. He set down his first aid kit, knelt down, and began to speak calmly and evenly, without looking away. "Calm down. I'll help you. You'll be okay." And the lion didn't move. The lion didn't move. His body trembled with pain and fear, but he didn't lunge forward or roar louder. He just stared, straight into Daniel's eyes. And in those amber eyes, the man saw not rage, but despair. Daniel knew he didn't have much time. He put on thick gloves, poured painkiller powder from the first aid kit into the solution, and slowly, almost whispering, began to speak as he approached. His voice was even and calm, as if he were talking to a person, not a wild beast. He crawled closer, even closer. And now he was at the trap. The lion breathed heavily, but did not attack. Daniel quickly sprayed antiseptic and set to work on the trap. The metal was old and rusty, but it was clamped shut, as if the steel teeth did not want to let go. He pulled one lever, then the other. The lion hissed, but endured. And then, snap. The jaws of the trap clicked open, free. The paw was torn, the skin broken, but the wound was not fatal. The lion raised its head. It did not run away. It just lay there, watching. Daniel quickly bandaged the paw, treated it, and backed away, crawling into the grass. He expected the lion to get up and disappear into the thicket, but it just lay there. Neither of them knew that this moment was only the beginning. The beginning of the most unusual friendship, which would later be written about in articles and filmed in videos. But now there was only one thing. A man, a beast, and silent gratitude between them. The sun had almost disappeared behind the horizon, leaving behind a warm orange glow in the sky. Daniel sat by the fire, watching the wounded lion, which was still lying in the tall grass, closer than before, but still wary. Suddenly, he heard a rustle in the bushes, then another and another. Daniel tensed, clenching the knife in his hand, feeling his heart quicken. Silhouettes began to emerge from the bushes one after another. Huge, graceful lions. 4 adults, including a massive male with a thick mane, and 2 females. They did not roar, they just walked slowly and confidently. The wounded lion raised his head and let out a low, drawn-out sound. The pride stopped. One of the lions approached closer than the others, sniffed the air, and sat down. None of them acted aggressively. They looked at Daniel, then at the wounded lion. It was as if they were trying to understand. Who was he? A friend? An enemy? Or just a man who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time? But there was something almost sacred about this silent spectacle. It was not a moment of attack, it was observation, assessment, understanding. And then, unexpectedly, one of the females approached and gently touched the wounded lion's ear with her nose. He did not pull away. Daniel understood. This was his family, his pride. Night fell softly on the savannah, like a blanket. The campfire was dying down, and only its faint glow reflected in the eyes of the lions surrounding their wounded comrade. They did not approach Daniel, but they did not leave either. They simply stayed close, as if sensing that their brother was not yet ready to be left alone. Daniel did not move. He understood that any sudden movement could ruin everything, but the fear that had lived in him at the beginning began to recede. Instead, he realized that he was not a stranger. He had become part of a moment that an ordinary person should not have been a part of. But he was here, and this recognition, through silence, presence, and the absence of aggression, was a real miracle. One of the females lay down closest to the wounded lion. The others settled down nearby, as if guarding their own, and the human too. Daniel felt something shift inside him. He suddenly realized that this was no longer just about saving an animal. This was the trust of wild nature given to a human being. Late at night, he fell asleep right by the fire, lying on his side with his backpack under his head. And for the first time in many days, he slept peacefully, because the lion was nearby, and 3 more. And they weren't hunting, they were a family. At dawn, the savannah seemed like a different world. Fresh, bright, full of movement and life. In the shade of the acacia trees, the lions began to wake up, yawning and stretching. The wounded lion lay next to his sister, his head resting on her paws. His breathing was even and calm. The night spent with the pride, and the man had done the impossible. He had survived. Daniel was already awake and silently watching what was happening. He noticed how the lioness gently licked her brother's muzzle, and then looked straight at him. This look was neither threatening nor testing. It was the gaze of a creature that understood that humans were not enemies. Later, as the sun rose higher, the lions began to get up. One by one, they approached the wounded lion, and there was something in their movements that resembled a farewell. The lion struggled to his feet. He staggered, but did not fall. His eyes met Daniel's. Daniel took a step forward, but stopped. He understood. Now his mission was over. He must not interfere with what must continue without him. He just nodded. "You'll be fine. Not alone anymore." The lion came closer and touched his hand with his forehead. A light touch, almost like a handshake. And then he turned and walked away with the pride, his head held high. Daniel watched them for a long time, until their silhouettes dissolved in the golden light of the new day. Daniel returned to the reserve and continued his work, rescuing, treating, protecting. But the story of that lion remained special forever. Sometimes at night, he remembered that look, that touch of forehead to palm. As if for a moment, the wild beast had become closer to him than many people. Once, while patrolling the edge of the savannah, he heard an unusual roar. Not threatening, but recognizable. He froze. On a hill, against the backdrop of the sunset sky, stood a lion. The very same one. Healthy, strong, surrounded by his pride. He looked down, straight at Daniel. Their eyes met, just like they had by the campfire. And the lion roared briefly, as a greeting. He didn't come down, didn't approach. He just stood there. That was all it took. Daniel smiled. He understood. Their connection remained. And in this wild, boundless world, where man is a guest and beast is master, there was one story where they met not as enemies, but as allies.